It's a place where European style meets South American flair, an iconic culture featuring legendary sports passion, world-famous dance, renowned food and wine, and more.
Argentina, a vibrant nation with a charismatic leader making bold moves to fix modern-day challenges. It's a country with a complicated history and important new issues. Join us as our Penn State student journalists take you to this fascinating place. This is the Center County Report in Argentina.
Hola from Buenos Aires. I'm Christian Audia, and thanks for joining us for this Center County Report special.
And I'm Bronwyn Leiber. We're going to bring you around this beautiful and unique city to show you some of the interesting stories that are making news here. First, a look at where we are in South America. Buenos Aires is more than 5,000 miles from central Pennsylvania. We're on the east coast of the country in the capital city. About 15 million people live in and around this metropolitan area.
You can't talk about Argentina without talking about their dynamic and outspoken president, Javier Milei. The 55-year-old libertarian has been in office for a little over 2 years. He inherited an economic mess, including the highest inflation rate in the world, more than 200%. Now there's positive progress. Inflation is down to among the lowest levels in about 8 years. I talked with Argentine residents and others about this new economy. Inside this neighborhood grocery store in Buenos Aires, every peso counts. Prices change fast, and for many people, what's in their basket is changing too.
You simply can't make ends meet anymore. I'm a retiree. You can imagine what a 420,000 peso pension is like.
Carlos Echeverria is 70 years old and says he's lived through every major economic crisis in Argentina. But he says this one feels different.
There are people having a really hard time. A lot of people have ended up out on the street. Just look around. We're out here wandering about, and I see all the people lying on the ground.
Argentina's country has struggled with inflation for decades, reaching nearly 300% in recent years. When President Javier Milei took office in December 2023, he promised to fix it, and fast.
The other possibility would have been to cut spending, which is what Milei started to do.
His strategy, often called the chainsaw approach, cut federal spending, reduced government bureaucracy, and aimed to stop printing money. He's made impressive progress at stabilizing the economy, with inflation down to 31% as of this spring. But while that progress is significant, the benefits are not being felt equally.
Whenever inflation goes high because of the money printing, the lower income people are the ones who suffer the most.
Back in the shopping aisles of Carrefour, those changes show up first. Food, arguably the most basic need, is where many Argentines feel the economic ups and downs.
Many people have stopped consuming what they used to consume. Many people can no longer afford to consume it, yet they consume it anyway. Factories are shutting down, bakeries are closing, everything is closing.
High costs and stagnant incomes are making it tough for many people to keep up.
When it comes to food, we buy only the basics. Before, maybe we would treat ourselves and buy other things.
For people like Nancy Aquino, it falls somewhere in between.
I mean, buying the basics isn't like how it used to be.
Spending may be down on necessary goods like bread, milk, and eggs, but the prices are still going up.
I see that the prices have been really up lately.
And it's not just the price of groceries. Housing costs have also increased after the government scaled back on rent controls, adding more pressure for many Argentines. And for younger people, including Ana Vacina, the impact can depend on your circumstances.
My mom is the owner of the apartment, so I don't pay. And some of my friends rent their apartment, and yes, it has been rising as well.
At the grocery store, the difference is clear. Some shoppers are cutting back, and others are just trying to keep up. At checkout, they're wondering where prices and their money go next.
But we are forecasting 22%, for example, for next year. Maybe if prices stand still, we could see 3 or 4 more points due to that.
The economist says that could mean lower inflation ahead, but not necessarily relief for everyone right away. In last year's midterm elections, voters showed support for Milei's aggressive economic approach, with his party outperforming the main opposition. But as of early this year, his approval ratings have fallen to their lowest level yet, as some blame him for high unemployment and continued economic struggles.
President Milei, to put it lightly, is destroying this country.
With more than a year and a half left in Milei's term and global uncertainty, including economic disruptions from the Iran war, the future of Argentina's economy remains unclear. The economy is also affecting Argentina's world-famous wine industry. It's facing the worst crisis in more than 15 years, with record low consumption and dropping exports. Wine drinking in Argentina is at an all-time low, according to the National Institute of Viticulture. And more than 1,000 vineyards have shut down across the country. A trade group attributes the drop to a decline in purchasing power that's hit middle and low-income consumers, along with a worldwide trend of less wine consumption.
This country is ranked #1 in the world for beef consumption. Good steaks are legendary here, but price increases have led to a cultural shift surrounding mealtime. Hannah Newar has that story.
The cattle ranches of Argentina are known worldwide for producing lean, tender, and juicy beef, thanks to the grass-fed diet of the Pampas. At Estancia Santa Elena, a 7-person team works with several thousand cattle. Santiago Citanich is one of the longtime ranch employees.
My role out in the fields is to be in charge of the cattle associated with the tourism operations. I started almost 10 years ago now. I was 20 years old at the time.
He is responsible for raising and fattening up the cattle.
My family comes from the countryside. I didn't pursue any formal studies. I learned everything 100% through hands-on experience.
When they buy a calf, it usually weighs around 400 pounds. The smaller cattle are moved into a feedlot enclosure, where they gain about 2 pounds a day. Over the course of a year, the ranch sells roughly 9,000 head of cattle. On this ranch in the Pampas, more than 2,600 cows will be here for a few months to get fattened up. From pasture to the plate, whether for lunch or dinner, beef is essential to culture here in Argentina. This country is among the world's top beef producers and exporters, projected to be over 830,000 tons this year. But even as Argentina exports billions of dollars in beef, the food culture is changing here. Prices for cuts like asada and naga have continued to jump, and with decreasing profit, many ranches are transitioning their pastures into crop fields.
La soja, el maíz.
In recent times, soybeans, corn, and wheat have steadily gained value, while the value of cattle has declined. Exports are not as high, and domestic consumption, which accounts for the bulk of the market, is significantly lower than that of the rest of the world.
Raul Pedron, a butcher in San Nicolas, has dealt with the changes.
4 half carcasses amount to 2 animals per week. That could be right.
He used to sell double that amount each week.
Well, that accounts for part of the decline in domestic meat consumption due to the price. Of course people are turning away now. They're opting for other things because of the beef prices.
Fortunately for Pedron, he has a loyal customer base.
I'm located right inside a corner. The majority of my clientele, well, they're all from right around here. That's how I keep the business going. Or at least, I strive to keep it going so I can keep moving forward.
As the economy changes, traditional dishes are less common during mealtime. A country historically known as the #1 consumer of beef per capita may lose that title as exports and high inflation threaten domestic consumption.
The goal being, of course, to ensure that prices hold steady, that they remain at this specific level, at the level they're currently sitting at today. And well, let's hope it stays that way, that we continue down this political path we have nowadays.
It was too risky for ranches like Estancia Santa Elena to allocate all their resources to beef production. But under a new trade deal, the United States is importing 4 times as much beef in an effort to lower costs in America. So more people here are putting down their steak knives because beef is losing its place on the dinner table. In San Antonio de Arico, I'm Hannah Newar for the Center County Report.
For centuries, one of the most well-known images from Argentina is the gaucho, the skilled horseman of the Pampas. But times have changed and so has their role. Across the vast plains called the Pampas, the legendary gauchos once roamed freely.
skilled cowboys who helped shape Argentina's early history.
So this unique character in the world that was created here is a legendary one. Is the man who make our independence. It was the core spirit of Argentina. So.
Those first gauchos were mainly smugglers, cattle thieves, people who were on the margins of the law. And over time, those people came to represent a value, so to speak, because they were a part of the armies in the wars of independence.
Over time, those outlaws turned into national heroes, helping gain Argentina's independence over 200 years ago. The director of Argentine American history at the University of Buenos Aires, Dr. Julio Gindelejon, says that transition is why they are so memorable.
At some point, the gaucho stops being identified with the criminal smuggler and starts being identified with the rural worker.
For generations, gauchos lived and worked on Argentina's vast plains. Today, ranchers are now looking to keep those same traditions alive.
Well, just the work itself is already very gaucho, and especially this, going after the animals, riding horses, lassoing, treating them.
Argires Meldon says growing up, his family was a key reason to carry on the gaucho family style.
I always carry the customs that my father showed me.
Even as rural life becomes less sustainable, the spirit of the gaucho lives on through festivals, families, and national pride.
Nowadays, the gaucho tradition is passed from parents to children. What we have is that rural families also seek to preserve the tradition, that tradition in which the idea of a gaucho is included. And it's interesting because this also has a lot to do with the economy, with the economic side.
The modern economy here and the changing cattle industry has little need for traditional gaucho skills. So many ranches are turning to tourism. One example, Estancia Santa Elena, a ranch less than 2 hours from Buenos Aires. Here you can stay for a day or a weekend and learn about the gaucho lifestyle.
For the traditions, we love to, maintain all these popular festivals of the gauchos. Yes, how we live normally.
Tourists can find authentic gaucho experiences that include horseback riding, food, wine, and music in small towns across the Pampas.
There are gaucho festivals, especially in the summer, which feature classic activities like bronco riding, cattle herding, and so on. But now they are family men and their wives, daughters, and sons going along as if it were a celebration, so to speak, much more established.
A way of life kept alive by tradition and now tourism.
If there's one character to represent Argentina, is the gaucho.
In San Antonio del Areco, Argentina, I'm Bronwyn Leiber for the Center County Report.
It's no secret, soccer, or football as it's called here, is practically a religion in Argentina. But beyond the game is the role it plays in the lives of young and vulnerable children. Owen Gelber has more.
It's a warm Wednesday night in Buenos Aires, and Mariano Lupani and his Atlanta football club are getting in a sweaty practice.
The club gives me everything. It improves me as a person first and then as a player.
Ramiro Swechting is one of his teammates.
The club gives you a place where you're not on the street. You can spend the whole day here, making friends and enjoying yourself.
For these players and most people across South America, football is a passion that unites millions and brings cultures closer together.
We drink mate together before practice. We talk for a while before and after training. And most of all, we enjoy spending time together.
Here in Buenos Aires, football isn't just a sport, it's practically a religion. It's not only worshipped on Sundays, it's deeply ingrained into a part of everyday life. Club organizations, or barrios as they call it, provide much more than just a sport the kids play. It provides them with a better life and an outlet toward success.
Outside of football, the club gives me values. I feel at home here. I've been here for several years, and it feels like family.
Across nearly all 48 of Buenos Aires' neighborhoods are football organizations, each with its own unique heartbeat and identity. Among them, Argentina Juniors in La Paternal and Club Atlético Atlanta in Villa Crespo. Coaches say a big part of their role is making sure their players are healthy and feel included.
Well, the importance of the club, both for families and the kids, is that no one gets left out.
Agustin Amaya is a 23-year-old coach at Club Atlético Atlanta. He coaches Lupani and Swetchtank.
He can also enjoy peace of mind regarding his finances. The point is to ensure that even though the young man must pay membership dues, registration fees, and cover medical expenses required to compete, these costs are covered in one way or another.
Club de Barrios have long been a staple in neighborhoods, but in recent years, they've become even more vital. President Javier Milei is successfully reining in high inflation, but his austerity measures have translated into higher costs for utilities, public transportation, groceries, and other necessities that have posed economic challenges to middle and lower class families. Football clubs are trying to fill some of those gaps. Dario Vaccarini is president of the Argentina Juniors Social Foundation, a nonprofit offering soup kitchens for struggling locals, including youth athletes from the organization.
When the previous administration took office, we were assisting around 30% of the kids. With the economic policies of the current government, that number has risen to nearly 70%.
The Argentina Juniors is a club in La Paternal. It's where soccer legend Diego Maradona once played and is still idolized.
Clubs in Argentina, as we've been talking about all this time, are much more than 90 minutes of football. They involve education, community support, solidarity, and social work. We fulfill many roles. Sometimes the snack we provide may be the last meal a child eats that day.
Vaccarini has lived here for over 60 years, and he says these clubs are a lifeline for families.
Given the country's current situation, in the absence of the state, these foundations are more important than ever.
Maria Migliori is a political scientist from Fundar who's researched and reported on youth sports clubs.
Today, Argentina is going through an economic crisis that hits the lowest income sectors, specifically the clubs hardest. This happens all too often. That's why I place such strong emphasis on the idea that these clubs foster a sense of community. Consequently, they provide a far wider range of services than just specific sporting activities.
Migliori says these community clubs often serve as a critical safety net for young people.
So, in a low-income community where, for instance, a young person is vulnerable to the influence of drugs because they're frequently exposed to the danger of someone offering them substances to consume, or simply due to severe economic hardships they often face, children and their families are compelled to start working at a very young age. Well, there's such a vast difference between a place where a club exists and where one does not. When such a club is present, it opens up a completely different kind of opportunity.
Because football, more than any other Argentine institution, embodies the nation's hopes, identities, and devotion, these clubs now carry a responsibility that extends far beyond the game. In Buenos Aires, I'm Owen Gelber for the Center County Report.
There's much more ahead on this Center County Report special,
including a specific group of workers fighting for better salaries. Also coming up, we head to the dance floor to show you how the world-famous tango is having positive health impacts for people with neurological disorders. One of the top tourist attractions in Buenos Aires is the beautiful Recoleta Cemetery. In this so-called City of the Dead lie more than 6,000 of Argentina's most well-known people, many of them in elaborate mausoleums and crypts. Among them, beloved Argentine First Lady Eva Perón, known as Evita. She died in 1952. Her crypt is under the family name Durate, and people line up every day to pay their respects.
Another place that draws large crowds is the historic Metropolitan Cathedral in Buenos Aires, which dates back to the 1700s. The late Pope Francis was the Archbishop of Buenos Aires for 15 years and celebrated Mass here before moving to the Vatican as Pope in 2013.
In this historically Catholic country, there are big shifts in faith and religion. President Javier Milei has been supportive of the Jewish community both here and abroad. Ryan Lowy reports.
Julian Barkey hosts a roundtable news podcast in Buenos Aires about Jewish life in Argentina. He says President Javier Milei has been a positive ally to the Jewish community.
We have a president who genuinely supports the Jewish people and the state of Israel. We feel represented by the president.
Argentina has the largest number of Jews in South America, as many as 250,000. Barkey says for the first time in years, many of them feel represented by their government.
Today, people are more motivated seeing the new direction of the country under President Javier Milei. It gives us hope.
It wasn't always that way. There have been spikes in anti-Semitism over the years. In the 1990s, there were 2 deadly bombings targeted at the Jewish community. Argentina's deadliest terrorist attack to this day was the 1994 Amia bombing, which was targeted at a Jewish building not too far from where I'm standing right now. 85 people died and over 300 were injured. But today, the Jewish community has not only rebounded, but is doing better than ever before. After the attacks, Barkey's cousin, Jasmine Rimberg, and her family moved to Canada.
Again, they wanted a place that felt safe to raise a Jewish family.
The Jewish Virtual Library says those 2 terror attacks and the economic situation at the time caused about 10,000 Jews to leave Argentina. Since Javier Milei became president, he quickly adopted the most pro-Israel foreign policy in the history of this mostly Catholic country. His attacks on anti-Semitism and his personal interest in the Jewish religion has created a sense of security for Argentine Jews.
If the Jewish people feel safe to be publicly praying outside of a synagogue when it's too full for a Shabbat service or a high holiday, then something right is being done.
Neighborhoods like Barrio de Balvanera and Barrio de Colegiales are home to many Jewish people, along with restaurants, homes, shops, and synagogues. Elias Landau lives in Barrio de Colegiales. His family immigrated from Poland in the early 1900s. He first lived in Rosario before moving to Buenos Aires, and has lived through decades of change in Argentina, both good and bad.
Because there's still groups that don't like Jews. I don't know why. Before, there was more connection.
Despite that history, many say life today feels different.
We live it in the most open and proud way we can, walking in the streets proudly as Jews.
In Buenos Aires, I'm Ryan Lowy for the Center County Report.
On the streets of Buenos Aires, including while our cameras were there, protests have been taking aim at the government over workers' rights. Vida Lashgari reports.
Nationwide protests erupted across Argentina after the Senate passed President Milei's labor reform bill in February, the first since the 1970s. It slashes public spending, labor costs, and removes policies that protect workers' rights. Backlash came primarily from labor unions, and some protests turned violent. Norma Morales is one of thousands of workers who fear that the bill will limit workers' rights and hurt economic growth.
This government has changed our lives profoundly. I can't sleep calmly not knowing if I will have the ingredients necessary to provide for my community.
Morales works at a textile factory in Union known as Las Mandarinas. She and a group of women make handmade clothing, accessories, and bags for women in different professions. Under Milei's ambitious agenda, Argentina's economy has been undergoing a shock therapy. His attempt at fiscal consolidation has cut subsidies for energy and transportation and government jobs. It slashed public spending by a third. It's helped tame inflation to the lowest point in years. But the reform bill could cause a wave of further volatility in Argentina's economy, as predicted by some economists and labor workers, including Morales.
We are not scared of him. This government has continuously tried to attack our rights, but we will not let them.
In Buenos Aires, I'm Vida Lashgari for the Center County Report.
Many school teachers here are struggling to afford rent in Buenos Aires, forcing far commutes and long workdays. Reporter Esteban Marenco looks at the financial challenges that they face.
President Javier Milei took office in 2023. He introduced austerity measures that stripped many government-funded organizations and institutions of resources. University cuts hit professors hard.
There's a lot of exodus. We have a lot of coworkers who are in need. I mean, you have to eat and you have to feed your children or your family or your parents. It depends on the situation that each one is in. And many times you have to choose to go to another job, either in the private sector or to work in something else.
Cutting costs have allowed some to stay and continue their university work, but others had to take second jobs or leave the profession entirely to find a more livable income.
In addition to my teaching position, I'm a police investigator, but the conditions are very poor. I'm in a relationship, and that relationship earns more than me. And well, if I were alone, I couldn't do this. I would have to look for another job.
Both professors say they made more from their Christmas bonuses than from their yearly teaching salaries.
Today, the salaries are 33% lower than they were in December of 2025.
Malay's measures hit public government-funded universities hard. Budget freezes and salary reductions prompted professors to go on strike and take to the streets in protest. They were joined by students, unions, and even some people who voted for Malay. Buenos Aires Herald reporter Facundo Iglesias said, quote, "A lot of people who didn't usually marched at that time. There were massive protests. I would say there were colorful protests too, which is not always the case," end quote. Public universities are free in Argentina, which is a point of pride here. 80% of all college students attend a public university. When the protests and strikes happened, the administration had little reaction, which some saw as evidence that Malay would not budge on his efforts to tame the country's high inflation. Since then, demands for increased university funding and higher professor salaries have died down. But the issues continue, and those affected are trying to adapt to life in their new world. In Buenos Aires, I'm Esteban Marenco for the Santa Cana Report.
Many people have never heard of the term, but in Argentina, there's a group called cartoneros who make their living from collecting and selling scavenged pieces to recycling plants. But Owen Camaras has the story on how times are changing for them as well.
Alejandro Miranda picks up a piece of cardboard and a brush. He spends the afternoon in a small art-filled studio in Buenos Aires, gluing pages to cardboard covers. For him, it's a calling.
This is something unique that only we do. If we didn't do it, I think no one else here in Buenos Aires would.
There's history in Miranda's work, born from the economic collapse and the perseverance of Argentina's least fortunate.
It's a very cruel life, but, well, you gotta fight.
Roberto Daniel walks the streets of downtown Buenos Aires looking for recycling. In the morning, he'll sell his collection to a cooperative to afford to eat. Daniel is one of over 150,000 people called cartoneros who collect recycling as a living here.
And that's what we're living through here in this country. We're all in the same boat.
Cartoneros became common after the country's economic collapse in 2001. According to Graciela Pacheco, a former cartonero, tens of thousands of people were forced to collect trash on the street almost overnight.
At that time, we'd come here with the children to work here in the capital as cartoneros. We were called that because we collected cardboard, or as people commonly called us back then, scavengers.
At first, cartoneros were treated with hostility by most people and the government.
Having people look at you with disdain because you're rummaging through rubbish bags to provide for your family's daily needs.
Over time, cartoneros gained a political foothold. Today, there's an official federation with over 20,000 members. But, according to Eduardo Catalano, the director of a recycling cooperative, conservative president Javier Milei has made things difficult for cartoneros.
The price of the material collapses, and to earn $5 from cardboard, you have to work longer hours, travel further distance, and suffer greater wear and tear.
Cardboard and recycling have been a lifeline for thousands of cartoneros in Argentina. And there's another movement that grew right alongside these cartoneros, turning the cardboard into arts and literature. Writer Washington Curcurto and artists Javier Baralaro and Fernanda Laguna started a specialized publishing business named Eloisa Cartonera more than 20 years ago. Miranda joined the group a few years later. Eloisa publishes over 200 different books. According to Adrian Vila, a retired professor and cartonera expert at the University of Buenos Aires, Eloisa gives non-mainstream artists a space to get published.
There was a massive bottleneck for an entire generation of authors. They had no access to publication.
Eloisa was the first cartonera, which is a publisher that makes books with recycled cardboard collected by cartoneros. After a few years, other cartoneras began popping up in Argentina and across Latin America. Now, there are over 200 worldwide.
At first, of course, it caught our attention. Oh look, a new one opened. Later, it became a phenomenon with a life of its own, independent from us.
Alejandra Hernandez Garzon owns a cartonera in Mexico. She says it's become a close-knit community across the globe.
Some of us don't know each other, like in other countries, for example in Chile or elsewhere, but we do have mutual communication.
For Miranda, the job has never been about money or international fame. It's about making a difference in the community.
The important thing is that people can read, that they can access these texts in a simple, affordable way. The rest is a nice, attractive package.
Cartoneros like Danielle provide Argentina with a recycling network. Eloisa pays these cartoneros higher than usual rates in order to help Argentina's least fortunate. In Buenos Aires, I'm Juan Camaros for the Center County Report.
Buenos Aires means big city life on every level, but many people are pushing for more green in this urban environment. Mercedes Hamilton reports.
Buenos Aires is known for its dense urban life, but for many residents, a place to breathe is out of reach. The Bungie Born Foundation's Green Space Atlas shows that 350,000 residents live more than a 10-minute walk from a public park. The burden falls heaviest on less affluent neighborhoods where the lack of green space compounds climate risks, physical and mental health concerns, and even childhood development.
If you are a kid in Buenos Aires City and you belong to the lowest decile in socioeconomic status, your chances of living far away from a public space are 4 times larger than if you are a kid in an affluent neighborhood.
In middle-class neighborhoods, residents are pushing back and demanding that unused public spaces be turned into parks before private developers purchase them. In Villa Santa Rita, which previously had 0 public parks, residents rallied, petitioned, and pressured local officials to convert an abandoned lot into a park. Now, they're working to create even more. It would be a matter of equity, that almost all residents of the neighborhood have easier access to a nearby green space, because today that does not happen, especially thinking of older adults or young children who can't travel so far. Researchers at the Bungie E. Born Foundation say the fight unfolding in Buenos Aires is part of a larger global movement. During the COVID-19 pandemic, cities around the world saw renewed awareness of how unevenly green space is distributed. But Buenos Aires still lags behind major U.S. and European cities in per capita green space, making local community-driven efforts especially urgent. In Buenos Aires, I'm Mercedes Hamilton for the Center County Report.
Still to come on this Center County Report special, tango dancing originated right here in Argentina. Now it's more than an art form, it's playing a key role in the medical field for some patients.
And the sport of polo is very popular here. Find out who's playing it now more than ever. Those stories and more after the break.
There's increasing concern here about police and civilian arrests. Over the past few years, policing in low-income neighborhoods in Buenos Aires has increased with the creation of something called the Pacification Force. That's led to nearly 200 police-involved deaths. Amy Joseph reports.
In the low-income community of Barrio 20, Buenos Aires police shot and killed 45-year-old Juan Gabriel Gonzalez, a beloved neighbor and father, outside his home while neighbors and his family watched the incident. Initially, police said it was a violent domestic dispute and tried to accuse Gonzalez's wife of shooting her husband. But Oscar Villaverde, Gonzalez's cousin, told us that police units known as the Pacification Force patrol low-income neighborhoods.
This happens in the poorest neighborhoods. There are accounts of confrontation when in reality the police are shooting young people. The city police have had nearly 200 cases in a year.
A neighbor's video, which went viral, exposed the media's false story, igniting neighborhood protests that demanded the truth and pushed prosecutors to charge the police involved. Even though the police officer who shot Gonzalez is in jail, Villaverde is hoping for a more comprehensive reform.
Effectively, the officer fires the shot, but there is an intellectual author. There is a policy that expresses hate to people, and we want to emphasize this. In this case, the police officer is arrested, but the intellectual author, who is the governor, chief of state, and until recently, the minister of security, are those who foment this type of practice in the police forces.
Valencia Mustoni, a board member for criminal justice advocacy organization Corepi, says Gonzalez's case is unusual because it's rare for the police to be prosecuted using what's known as gatillo fácil, the practice of using deadly force without warnings or reason. According to Carepi, the number of police-involved deaths has increased in the last 2 years under the Milei administration. Mustoni says this legislature is pushing to legalize the practice of gatillo fácil. In Buenos Aires, I'm Amy Joseph for the Center County Report.
During the 70s and 80s, Argentina had thousands of people disappear during the time known as the Dirty War. Now, decades later, relatives are still remembering them and speaking out. Melissa Santos has more.
In 1976, Argentina changed forever. A military coup took control of the government, sparking a period of fear, silence, and violence, known as the Dirty War. An estimated 30,000 people disappeared, taken from homes, schools, and jobs, never to be seen again. They became known as Los Desportados, the disappeared. Some victims ended up on what became known as death flights, drugged, loaded onto planes, and thrown alive into the ocean. Others were held at secret detention centers. Carmen Arias helps families still struggling to get answers. She reads another mother's story here.
I went to the Ministry of the Interior. I went to the police station. I went to the barracks. Nothing. They don't have them. They don't look for them. But they kidnapped them. The armed forces. We saw them when they took them.
One of the most infamous centers was ESMA, a formal naval school in Buenos Aires where prisoners were interrogated, tortured, and often killed.
There was a mother, Antocolex, Maria Adele Antocolex, who has now died unfortunately. And she told what had happened to her son, a lawyer, who had defended political prisoners. And for that, for doing his job, they took him, tortured him savagely, and killed him.
Families were left with no answers, no bodies, no explanation, only silence. But some refused to stay silent. They gathered every week in the Plaza de Mayo wearing white headscarves embroidered with the names of their children. Soon, grandmothers joined them, searching for grandchildren taken at birth and given to other families. Many of those kids grew up without knowing their true identities. Even today, some are still being found and reunited with their birth families. This year marks 50 years since the coup. The country continues to remember those who had disappeared and to seek justice. But the current government is downplaying the atrocities of the Dirty War. President Javier Milei has supported the defunding of human rights organizations. In March, thousands went to the plaza for a national day of remembrance and truth, honoring those who had disappeared. They want to ensure the events of 50 years ago are never repeated. The movement known as Nunca Más echoes through the streets, reminding everyone that lost relatives are still remembered.
It's a beautiful feeling of struggle, fraternity, brotherhood, and protection. I think that sometimes it's like a breath, even for the moment that we are living of garbage, so to speak. With the government that we currently have, it's like a refuge of love and strength.
Because even after decades, the question remaining, what happened to the disappeared? The Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo, Madres de Plaza de Mayo, and Equipo Argentino de Antropología Forense work together to help families find answers and closure.
The grandmothers tend to people. 80% of those who doubt their identity in Argentina go to the grandmothers, even outside the dictatorship. And grandmothers receive those people and immediately work with the state so that the state takes over and does what it has to do to help give them the information they need.
Despite official efforts to discount the past, these groups continue to fight for affected families. For now, a single phrase echoes through the Plaza de Mayo every Thursday: Nunca más, nunca más. In Buenos Aires, I'm Melissa Santos for the Center County Report.
Argentina is known as one of the most LGBT-friendly places in South America, but reporter Alex Fisher says many fear times are changing.
Argentina legalized same-sex marriage in 2010, making it the second country in the Western Hemisphere to do so after Canada. It's also home to one of the most comprehensive transgender rights laws in the world, allowing trans people to legally change their name and receive gender-affirming health care without a psychiatric diagnosis.
So I think that we have a robust constitution, but more than that, we have a broad and fighting community that makes their claims for the Constitution to be respected.
But many say that climate has been shifting under President Javier Milei. Since taking office, his administration has made cuts to government resources for the LGBTQ+ community. During the Davos Economic Forum last year, Milei criticized woke ideology, saying he's against abortion, feminism, and transgenderism, that LGBTQ+ people are child abusers and pedophiles, and that gender-affirming healthcare is a form of mutilation and abuse. Mariano Ruiz is the founder and president of the Human Rights and Diversity Civil Association.
We actually developed a campaign last year with different other LGBT organizations trying to show that what the president is saying is hate speech.
According to a report from Argentina's National Observatory of LGBT+ hate crimes, 2025 saw a 62% increase in LGBTQ+ hate crimes from 2024.
As you hear it every single day, and now it became politically correct to discriminate or to attack others because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, because of the community they belong to, because of their religion. It's becoming normalized that hate is the norm.
In Buenos Aires, I'm Alex Fisher for the Center County Report.
Recent changes in Argentina's economy have affected the tourism industry in this country and where Argentines are choosing to travel. Reporter Vasco Chen takes a look.
This country has always been a popular tourist spot, often the third top destination in South America. It's known for its vibrant culture, breathtaking landscapes, and world-class food. But economic challenges in recent years have led to a decline in domestic tourism. Economist Laura Bernelli says the key reason is currency.
Tourism in Argentina also became more expensive for Argentinians. Why? Because it's priced in dollars. Even if inflation goes down for us, by holding back the dollar's value and making it cheaper, all costs in dollars go up.
Bernelli says now it's cheaper for many people in Argentina to travel to other South American countries and overseas than within their own country.
Before, it was harder for Argentinians to get dollars to travel because you could only buy $200 a month, and with a lot of restrictions. That's no longer the case. It's unrestricted now. So now, in addition to it being cheaper for an Argentinian to travel abroad, they can access more affordable dollars and larger amounts without restrictions.
Tourism operators in Argentina said the Argentine exodus is also fueled by recovering purchasing power due to falling inflation and the elimination of a tax on foreign credit card purchases. In Buenos Aires, I'm Vasco Chen for Center County Report.
I'm Sarah Grosh. Coming up next, how the traditional dance of Argentina has expanded to benefit people's health in unexpected ways.
Coming up next from Buenos Aires, if you're a book lover, this is the place to be. It's a world renowned for its book culture, and we'll take a closer look into that after the break.
The tango is Argentina's famous dance of love and passion, but it can also benefit your health. New tango therapy programs originated here are now expanding across the globe. Sarah Grosh reports. The tango is a dance of passion and love, but it's also a piece of identity for Argentina. The dance has been expanding past the cultural traditions it was once used for. It's Argentina's language of love, known around the world, the tango. Born in the 1800s on the streets of Buenos Aires, with roots in African and Cuban music.
It's a dance of seduction.
Karen Daramuz moved from Belgium to Argentina to dance the tango.
But a good milonga, wow. And it takes you to heaven. If you dance a milonga with a good dancer, I mean, you're in disguise.
She dances tango several times a week at milongas. Those are places where men show interest with a cabeceo or a nod. If the woman accepts the invitation, the partners will dance the different rhythms of tango together.
And the men in a traditional milonga will invite with the cabeceo, which is very subtle. It goes like this.
She says here in Buenos Aires, around 30 milongas happen every night across the city. But outside of the classic milongas and open tango classes for fun, this legendary dance is now playing an important role in health and wellness through programs targeting people with neurological challenges.
The quality of your life is going to be increased if you connect and you dance.
Maria Teresa Gil Oligastri is a psychologist and dance movement therapist. She's seen both the psychological and physical benefits of tango through her work.
And I wanted in my heart to dance and to teach and to connect with disability.
She developed the Neurotango program, aimed at improving social connections and quality of life for neurodiverse people. The program has now expanded to workshops, masterclasses, and training sessions around the world. She even published a book based on her research about the subject.
For me, it's my purpose of life.
And she's not the only one who's reworked the tango to benefit others.
Al ser bailarín profesional de niño,
As a professional dancer since childhood, I discovered this tango with a different purpose, a tango that truly offers tools to improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
Manuco Fermani is a professional tango dancer who works with Parkinson's disease patients.
What are the objectives of the class for people with Parkinson's? The goal is for them to achieve good posture, gain more confidence, and achieve a smooth walk.
Fermani works to reduce symptoms in patients like Maria Durero.
The relationship with others is important too. One must be mentally prepared for what the leader is practicing, as there are many things that are worked on together.
Durero was diagnosed with Parkinson's 5 years ago, but since she started tangoing a year and a half ago, she says many of her symptoms have improved.
The idea is always that the tools we provide in class can be applied in their daily lives, in their kitchens, and when they walk down the street, so they can carry this body a little more aligned with their feet better prepared for marching and walking.
As long as I can do it now, I will. I don't know if I'll be able to do it in the future, but today I do everything I can with movement.
And these programs have expanded to Pennsylvania. In Philadelphia, the Tango Therapy Project offers workshops for people with Parkinson's disease. In Buenos Aires, I'm Sarah Grosh for the Center County Report.
Home to more than 120,000 neatly organized spines, this is the largest bookstore in South America. It's also a coffee shop where people can relax with a drink and read. The theater-turned-bookstore was converted in 1919. Many elements of the theater were left untouched, like the red velvet curtains. We talked with visitor Giannis Conrad about his stop at this beautiful landmark.
Buenos Aires has a culture, let's say, of bookstores and of buying, reading books. And this is a very cool one, I think.
El Ateneo Grand Splendid, named the world's most beautiful bookstore, is a must-stop when visiting Buenos Aires.
Polo is a traditional and popular sport in Argentina, played on horsebacks for hundreds of years.
Over the past decade, the number of women playing the game has grown in a big way. But as Evan Smith reports, there are still obstacles.
6 a.m. in Pilar, Argentina, and hundreds of trainers are already busy working with horses at clubs and farms across the town. These horses are bred with one purpose, to play one of Argentina's signature sports, polo.
I always say, it's a bit like playing the guitar and singing at the same time.
Argentina is home to the largest polo tournaments in the world during its summer season, with teams made up of players from across Asia, Europe, and South America. Many are drawn here by reasonable land prices in a sporting economy that's escaped the worst of the inflation that's affected many other industries.
25 years ago now, I bought a farm here when I was 19. I believed it would be a good investment. My parents said, if you want to do this, you have to do this yourself.
Annabelle Davis moved to Pilar in 2001. She decided to buy horses and learn the sport of polo, but she faced challenges trying to break into a traditionally elitist culture.
I used to walk to polo. There are people that know me still and saw me walking 15 kilometers to and from polo.
In the early 2000s, she endured sexism from other players and challenges joining clubs and tournaments. She says all male clubs didn't want to give her a shot until she demonstrated her skills in competition. Her success leveled the playing field as Davis trained with the men's teams on her way to earning a spot on England's national team.
People wouldn't even say hi to me on the pitch. I just didn't exist.
Davis now focuses her efforts on breeding and training horses, running a business on the same farm she bought nearly 25 years ago.
I still do the basic jobs in polo because that's the way that I've found as a professional in the sport to make a living, a stable living, because there just aren't enough tournaments yet for girls to make a full-time living, even if you travel all around the world.
Polo has been played here in Argentina for over 150 years, but only over the last decade has the women's game really started to grow. The sport is now reaching the mainstream more after Mia Cambiaso, the daughter of polo legend Adolfo Cambiaso, shined a light on the opportunity that women have in the game. Unlike Davis, who followed a rough path to the polo fields, 14-year-old Amanda Fescher-Arriaga came into the game in this new, inclusive era. Developments such as women-specific clubs make the polo landscape look a lot different than it did in the early 2000s.
I bought my first horse when I was 11 with $600 I saved up on my birthday. The horse was undesirable to buyers as she wasn't responsive, but I trained her well by treating her with care into being the best horse in the tournament.
Arriaga became interested in polo after watching her male friends play the game. She now has the opportunity to play alongside women up to 40 years older than her. But while women's polo is gaining momentum, it still hasn't reached the level of the men's sport. To sustain the growth the game is seeing at the lower level, women's polo needs to advance professionally, according to Davis. Last season, only a limited number of teams competed in the Women's Argentina Open, which Davis believes is a result of a management group that's behind the curve and a lack of investment.
It's a problem in that the men's sport obviously has more sponsors and therefore more money, and obviously in order for teams to be competitive they need sponsorship money to be successful.
Davis has spent the past few years helping to grow women's polo and pitching different ways to increase profitability and awareness. She also believes that budget differences for teams like Cambiaso's La Dolfina is keeping professional women's polo from becoming more competitive, further hindering professional growth. However, as more women grow into the game, the dreams are growing bigger for young players like Arriaga.
I hope that one day we can have a triple crown to compete for like the men do.
In Pilar, Argentina, I'm Evan Smith for Center County Report.
That's all for this Center County Report special. We hope you've enjoyed our stories from here in South America.
And be sure to follow us on our Center County Report social media channels for more news anytime. And adios from Buenos Aires.